the second edition of the Pro MFG Think Tough on Sustainable Manufacturing webinar series powered by Biofuel Circle. I am Ramya from Pro MFG Media. We are a manufacturing-focused media company, and our engagements and platforms focus on connecting, collaborating, and transforming the Indian manufacturing sector. During the webinar, I request the audience to pose their questions via the Q&A box. There will be an interesting quiz played during the webinar, so please be active listeners as you stand a chance to win exciting prizes. Also, there will be a lucky draw, so please stay back till the end to be eligible for winning prizes in the lucky draw. To take the proceedings further, I now invite my colleague, Mr. Manish Kulkarni. Manish is the director of Pro MFG Media. He is an electrical engineer by education, having over 3 decades of experience across various functions in the industry, both in India and Southeast Asia. Over to you, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramya, for those opening remarks. And I welcome you all on behalf of Pro MFG Media and Biofuel Circle, our partner, in this series of cluster-based, cluster-focused sessions, knowledge-sharing sessions on sustainable manufacturing. We had the first edition of such knowledge-sharing session in Aurangabad during the month of August. And this is the second edition, as Ramya mentioned. This will also be taken to the other manufacturing clusters in India, starting with Tamil Nadu, and then Gujarat and North, as well as Goa. So stay tuned for the upcoming sessions in this series. The idea is to create a dialogue and understand the best practices for the use of bioenergy. What are the trends in terms of the biofuels in the industry, and how it is likely to shape up in time to come? Because as you know, sustainability is not only the buzzword, because we hear it very often now in media, but it's not only a buzzword, but it is actually most of the organizations are focusing this as a strategy, because we were discussing with one of the very large manufacturing groups in India, and they define sustainability as sustainability, whether we'll be able to sustain in time to come. If you read the recent interview of Siemens's global CEO, he also mentioned that the core drivers of the business for the next few decades will be sustainability and digital. So I'm very happy that we have eminent speakers today who will share their insights and their experiences on the topic of sustainable manufacturing related to the bioenergy and the biofuels. The program structure is like this. We'll have a brief presentation about Biofuel Circle, our partner in this, followed by a clean technology presentation by Dr. Udgikar from Praj, and there will be a panel discussion between myself and Tushar, Raj, and Vishwajit. Raj and Vishwajit are from Testy by Detables and Bridgestone India, respectively. So as Rebecca mentioned, please listen carefully to the proceedings, because there will be active listeners quiz which will be conducted during the course of the webinar, as well as please stay back till the end, because there is a lucky draw coming up. So there are a lot of prizes to be won, exciting prizes to be won. With this, I now invite Ashwin Save, who is the co-founder of Biofuel Circle, and he's also the head of product and platform development at Biofuel Circle. Ashwin has over 2 decades of experience in energy and software industry. He has also leadership experience with technology companies and startup engagement with various tech companies. He's a mechanical engineer by education, and he did his master's at the in international trade at Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. He is a passionate photographer, and he will speak to us about Biofuel Circle, India's first online marketplace for biofuels and biomass. Over to you, Ashwin.
Thank you, Manish. Let me start by thanking everyone who have joined us today. I'm just going to share my screen and do let me know when you can see this.
Yes. It's visible, yeah.
Lovely. I'll start with a little bit of introduction about Biofuel Circle. And this is part of our series, which we like to call Doing Well by Doing Good. The idea is to be a sustained voice for the circular economy by providing a digital platform for biomass and bioenergy. And we want to do that by bringing in the opinions and the viewpoints of all the various stakeholders, bring in professionals who can talk about needle-moving approaches and not just theoretical concepts, and moving the idea of sustainability from philanthropy or CSR activities to business strategy, and thus in the process create new businesses around the circular economy theme. So as I said, we are a catalyst. We want to bring in organizations like yourselves. We want to bring in leaders like the panelists we have on the platform today, and bring a mix of ideas, bring a mix of policy, investment opportunities, and in the process, give wings to ideas or new ideas and views around circular economy. So what's circularity and what is the opportunity in the bioenergy space? If you take into account the total agricultural produce of only the 10 major agricultural states of India, I'm not talking all of the country, just the 10 major states. We produce 650 million tons of biomass every year. And of that 650 million tons, 235 million tons each year goes waste. It is either burnt or it is thrown away. This 235 million tons can potentially meet 17% of India's energy needs. 17% is a massive number. 50 exajoules is the kind of numbers we're talking of. Why is this important? Because this is thrown away by farmers. It is waste. They don't have to do anything, any processing significant to the name. You just have to collect it and properly bundle it. It can provide additional income. Our calculations show that for an average farmer, this can increase income by about 15,000 rupees a year. Not just that, once we bring in the linkages between farm and factory, through these processes, we can create a stronger connect and stronger ability for industries to source green energy. And thus, in the process, become a source or become a way to collect carbon offsets, which can be traded or which can be sold at profit by industries like yourselves. So how do we do that? This is easier said than done. There are certain bottlenecks in this process. In India, farms are typically fragmented. They are small. They are spread out far away. On an average, an Indian farmer owns 2 acres of land. And so collection of all of this becomes very difficult. This is on the supply side or on the supply chain side. Why doesn't the farmer sell it? Today, if the farmer would attempt to dispose of their biomass, at most times they end up paying for it. Or if they want to sell it, they would get something like 50 paisa a kilo, or maybe if they're lucky, a rupee per kilo. If you compare that to the price of biofuels or green coal or briquettes that are produced, what the farmer gets is just 15%. So this is not enough incentive. The farmer ends up burning the residual biomass. Now, since biomass comes from crops, it is obvious that it is only produced 2 times in a year. And so due to the seasonality, you have to store it. You end up carrying it for about 6 to 8 months, which means there is cost of inventory for typical bioenergy producer, or the people who convert this into briquettes or pellets. So this becomes a significant drain on capital. It increases the cost of production. As I said before, typically industries would source from suppliers who are known and qualified, and hence their ability to source from a wide network is constrained. As a platform, we want to increase the access and thus enable rural or entrepreneurs in agricultural locations connect directly to industrial buyers. So that is Biofuel Circle, essentially an online marketplace which enables the farm to fuel ecosystem. We not just allow buyers and sellers to transact or connect with each other, but we also provide the transport and the payment services, thus connecting all elements of the supply chain, right from farmers to transporters to finance, that is necessary to enable this industry to grow, as well as help companies source bioenergy or biofuel at a cost-effective manner. We are a complete solution. It's a platform that allows you to find buyers and sellers. It allows them to find each other, to promote themselves and reach out to potential customers or even suppliers, get to know their capabilities through mechanisms such as ratings and profiles. And these are mathematical models and not ratings provided by people. And in the process, enable you to conduct deals. You transact online, you buy and sell online. We have methods like auctions that enable you to discover the right prices, automated tools for moving the goods, planning your dispatch and delivery, planning your storage activity. And as an aggregator of transport, we provide the ability to both track and trace your goods as they're moving, as your fuel is moving to your sources of consumption. Invoicing is paperless on the platform, and digital settlement thus completes the procurement to pay mechanism. Because we are a platform that includes all of these services, we are able to bring in trade finance to the participants in this chain, help them bring down the cost of capital, particularly since they have to carry 6 to 8 months of inventory. How do we roll this out, or how are we connected to provide this service? It's through multiple local markets that are typically about 100, 200 kilometer radius. They include bioenergy companies that will buy the biofuels, consumers as well, and processors who are going to feed into these companies. We are present in Maharashtra right now and have initiated operations in a few states around the country, and further will reach out to Punjab and Karnataka as the year progresses. How do we help industry source the biomass? We are doing that by creating a whole ecosystem that feeds into the industrial areas. So we are working with FPOs, farmer producer organizations, to help tie up the supply side of it for aggregating. It helps farmers or people who own tractors or basic processing machines to utilize their equipment better. We can do baling or even briquetting that can be done at FPO level. Pick up the bed ash that comes out of your boilers, as well as pick up the biofertilizer from bioenergy or biogas, biodiesel plants, which can then circle back to the farmers, thus creating circularity in not just the carbon cycle, but also in the products that are part of the bioenergy complex. Very quickly, we believe that bioenergy is a source of energy that touches lives. It involves agriculturists, farmers producing food, and the waste from that is getting converted into fuel. It is clean energy, and hence it will help not just control the GHG emissions, but also become a source of income through carbon credits. The digital side of this platform provides efficiency. It provides the ability to reach out and get wider choices of fuel supply, as well as bring reliability into the whole business chain. That is very quickly about Biofuel Circle. And I look forward to an engaging discussion. I look forward to hearing your ideas. Thank you very much for being part of today's discussion.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you for that brief on this wonderful platform. I loved in one of the slides the words mentioned that ease, efficiency, environment, and society. And you are actually trying to solve the pain areas of the different stakeholders, right from farmers to the aggregators to the transport as well as the end use industry. So it's a wonderful platform. We have a very interesting presentation lined up now on the topic of sustainable climate action through bioeconomy. This is the title of the presentation. And we are extremely privileged to have speaker Dr. Ravindra Udgikar, who is the Vice President Corporate Strategy and Marketing at Praj Industries Limited. Praj needs no introduction, but Praj is, as you know, Praj is India's leading industrial biotechnology organization, providing end-to-end technology solutions from research and development to design and deployment, R&D to D&D for the process industry, and not only in India, but globally. Dr. Udgikar, who is with us to speak on the topic, holds a doctorate in management in addition to his engineering degree in electronics and telecommunication engineering from Pune University. His research thesis revolves around renewable energy and strategies for entry and growth in international markets. With over 3 decades of experience in the industry, in product as well as project businesses, Dr. Ravindra Udgikar has worked in the international and domestic markets. Dr. Udgikar has published several articles, papers, and case studies that have appeared in international and domestic journals. His hobbies are spending time with his family, reading management books, and gardening. Over to you, Ravindra.
So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me and all this generous introduction. I do want to record sincere appreciation of tremendous work Biofuel Circle is doing in the area of developing a sustainable ecosystem in the bioeconomy. Of course, Pro Manufacturing Group, I mean, fantastic series of webinars and thought leadership articles they bring from time to time, really value added with deeper insights. It is said that bioeconomy is an idea whose time has come. And I think this today's webinar focusing on sustainable manufacturing couldn't have been timed even better. So thanks and once again for having me here and all these arrangements to ensure that we share the know-how and experience. I would quickly give an overview about our company Praj Industries, which is India's most accomplished industrial biotechnology company. The statistics speak for themselves, but few things I want to draw your attention to is the George Washington Carver Award bust that you see here on the left-hand side of the screen. This is a gentleman in 18th century. George Washington Carver was a scientist, innovator, entrepreneur who transformed the agricultural sector and the economy. And Dr. Chowdhury have been bestowed this award that is on his name. It's seen as someone who is carrying forward the legacy of George Washington Carver. Dr. Chowdhury has been awarded this prestigious award in recognition of his tireless efforts over 3 decades in the area of biofuels and industrial bioeconomy through the Praj, who is ranked #1 place to work in the bioeconomy space, and who is also ranked #2 hottest company in the renewable chemicals and fuels and also bioengineering field. So that's a little bit about Praj. We are organized in 4 verticals, in fact. The flagship bioenergy vertical that services numerous offerings in the bioeconomy space. Then we have one division called Praj High Purity, which services the input water for the pharma and healthcare industry in terms of sterile and non-sterile applications. Then we have few engineering businesses, and all that is driven on the backbone of a research and development facility, state-of-the-art facility located outskirts of Pune with over 300 patents. So that's really the company's structure. Our presence is around the globe, over 1,000 plus installations across 100 plus countries across all 5 continents, or multi-clients that speak for what Praj has been able to do for them over a 3 decades period. And like Manish mentioned, the whole idea of a company is from design and development to research and development to design and deployment. So across the value chain, we have offerings, including life cycle management. So that was a little bit about our company. But coming to today's topic about sustainable manufacturing, I thought it's good to put in context what we all mean by sustainability. And I think clearly you can see the definition stated in there, but even the picture speaks 1,000 words, that economy, environment, and society, where they converge, and all are not at the expense of each other, but all are value accretive, so that we don't compromise needs for tomorrow's generation by consuming resources mindlessly today. So that's where when we have sustainability, and we are here talking about a bioeconomy, the term that I have been referring now and then, which is actually depicted in this picture, which is actually a knowledge-based production of, you know, using the biological resources and the processes and all the energy derived from it with a circle. I think Ashwin talked about the circular bioeconomy. We all know that plants absorb carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and then the goods, services, products, fuels made from plants, when consumed, emit carbon dioxide. So on one hand, you have this carbon absorption, and other hand, you have carbon emission. So you are creating a circular cycle for the carbon, and that's why you are seeing that it's a circular bioeconomy that is happening here. The next slide actually talks about this sustainable manufacturing, which is today's topic, which is nothing but creation of manufactured products using non-polluting processes, economically sound principles, and with the objective of minimizing the impacts, negative impacts on the government, while conserving energy and natural resources. So if you look at the two columns on the either side, two tables, actually they tell you about traditional ways the manufacturing sector was looked at, and now new way the manufacturing thinking is going on, which is moving from annual energy consumption to actually auditing the energy guzzlers, finding them out and seeing that they are actually taken to the task, and more efficient ways are being put in there. Instead of trying to audit them on a quarterly, yearly basis, you do on a real-time basis. And that's where the advancements in data analytics, information technology, instrumentation is playing a big role in manufacturing sector as well. And therefore, you are, instead of traditionally looking at the problem statement end of the pipeline after the process is done, you are actually going to the root cause level, finding the causes of the waste and developing processes that actually minimize the waste. So this is the way the new sustainable manufacturing is taking shape, in terms of new processes, new products, new feedstocks, new raw materials, and something which is more environment friendly. And that's where the whole concept of bioeconomy kicks in. Ashwin mentioned some pioneering work Biofuel Circle is doing in terms of setting a backward supply chain for sustained supply of feedstock, which is so very critical to the survival of the bio-based plants, or bioenergy plants, biorefineries, renewable chemicals and material plants, which actually are fed by way of some feedstocks, which are either sugary in nature, starchy in nature, or lignocellulosic in nature. And then you put them under the technology processing, which is biochemical, biothermal, or a combination of chemical and biological processes. And then you have what we have, different types of products. What mentioned here are biofuels, and the picture shows you all these products. So we are now saying that the farmer is now moving from just being a annadata to urja data. So he has a double role. And I think somewhere earlier it was mentioned that that also provides him one more revenue stream to actually boost his income, which is also doubling farmers' income, consistent with doubling farmers' income program run by the government of India. And then going further down the bioeconomy track, there are two pillars on which it stands as far as Praj is concerned. One is the biomobility platform, another is the bioprism platform. We are going to talk a little bit about it. But what we are stating here is they impact environment, economy, and society positively, besides giving much needed energy security. And these all connect with the big picture thing we are going to see in a while. So bioprism and biomobility are the two areas or growth drivers for bioeconomy in India. So talking about biomobility, it is actually a platform of technologies that use the biological feedstock, and when processed, this biological feedstock produce low carbon transportation fuel across all modes of transportation. The one that for surface transportation are very evident. So on the yellow side of the circle, you see the green side of the circle, you see the uh, biofuels which are already in existence, which is a renewable natural gas, first generation based bioethanol. That is, first generation is about sugary feedstock. Second generation based biofuels or bioethanol, which is based on lignocellulose. Then there is biodiesel, which is using cooking oil, or there are some bio additives that get added with the gasoline and with the diesel to make it a biodiesel. And then there are future fuels in terms of sustainable aviation fuel, which is around the corner or ushering. Biohydrogen is getting a big focus. And then there is biomethanol and biomarine fuels, which are also ushering. So basically what we are saying here is that India imports around 80% of its energy needs in the form of crude oil, natural gas, and all these are a big barrier on the economic growth, because they involve huge cash flow outlets which impact the current account deficit and therefore the stability of the currency and overall the economy. So bio mobility is actually leveraging the captive resources, and because when they blended, we saw that they are carbon neutral, they help minimize the greenhouse gas footprints, and which is also helping improve our carbon footprints and also eliminating the health hazards to the human beings, which are coming by way of suspended solids or pollutants from the vehicular consumption. In addition to the transportation, biofuels also have applications in the industrial space. For example, there are many heating plants or energy guzzlers which today use the natural gas. They can graduate to renewable natural gas or a compressed biogas, for which the government has come up with big policy, which also is about that policy is called Satat. You can Google and you can find out more. But these biogas plants are using the agricultural waste as a feedstock, and then instead of burning as a waste, they are converted into the wealth. So that actually also takes us to energy self-reliance. So the next slide is about renewable chemicals and materials. We all know that today the whole economy and materials are petrochemical based or hydrocarbon based. We are saying they could be carbohydrate based. So hydrocarbons are something which you extract from the surf or beneath the earth surface. So actually you are carbon emitted from consumption of these materials, and fuels actually add to the carbon that is there already in the atmosphere. They are more toxic. They are also causing the greenhouse gas emissions. So they are detrimental to the overall global warming and climate change situation that we have in India. The ill effects we are experiencing by way of untimely rains, floods, severe droughts, harsh monsoons and winters, and so on. So the biochemicals or renewable chemicals and materials are green alternative to fossil fuel based sources, and they are less toxic, they are less poisonous, they are environment friendly, and they help minimize the greenhouse gas emissions, and they have applications across industries, whether it is plastic or bioplastic or biodegradable plastics, resin paints, then pesticides, fertilizers. All these have applications in construction, automobile, food, agriculture, packaging industry, and some of the biochemicals are stated here. But we are at a stage where, the ramp up and commercialization on a scale up level has yet to happen. The next slide actually talks a little bit more about the biochemical or bioprism technology, which actually shows that there is a biological feedstock, then that undergoes the conversion by using a technology by biocatalyst, chemical catalyst, and thermochemical processes. And then what you have is end products that are there for different applications, in terms of automobile space, in terms of paints, fertilizers, food ingredients, cosmetics, everything that is coming through the petrochemical route have a way or alternative through biochemical route. This is a big driver for sustainability, and that's why it is important. Biofuels is something that gets often talked about. Biochemicals is something which is the next big thing that's going to come in the bioeconomy. And then, I have some case studies which actually tell you that, if we have objective of sweating our assets more by having a more productivity improvement, we have some chemical and biochemical processes that help improve the efficiency, which actually have more co-products coming out, which actually improve the financial viability. If we are targeting reduction at source, in terms of utilities or natural resources like water, we have water treatment technologies that can be deployed for effluent treatment, for sewage treatment, which actually saves the water table, which are already in the depleting mode. Then if we have recycling by way of integration as an objective, then we have some separation and concentration technologies which help us achieve energy savings, which is also leading to sustainable manufacturing. And then finally, you have zero liquid discharge systems, which actually uses the advanced tillage treatment technologies, and thereby you are able to recover the water in the process, and you are able to recycle and reuse the water, thereby minimizing the water footprint. And some of the statutory norms are already coming in, which force us to adopt to some of these sustainable technologies. The next slide actually is even more interesting because that talks about the statistics of a game-changing role that technology is playing. For instance, if we look at the bar chart here, we see that in the good old times, every liter of ethanol produced water consumption used to be of the order of 10 liters. Now, over a period, the technology and the process efficiency and different type of chemicals, biochemicals, yeast, agents, culture, we've been able to bring it down to 1.5 liters per liter. Dicto is the case as far as the thermal energy reduction is concerned. From the earlier times, 4 kg per liter consumption has now been going all the way to 0.5 kg per liter. So I think what we are seeing is technology is helping make things more sustainable. And something even on the water footprint side, where you can see that there is a great amount of thermal energy reduction possible. All this has happened over a period of time with technology as a game changer. And then, we are clearly seeing that the familiarity with the crude oil refineries, where you have the crude oil extracted from the earth is put under distillation column, and then distill at a different point to give you different products. Similarly, you have now bio crude that is undergoing some processing in chemical, biological processing. And what you have on the other side is a variety of products, whether it is bio-based compressed natural gas, ethanol, butanol, biochemical, sustainable aviation fuel, renewable diesels, bio oil, biofertilizers. All this help improve the financial viability of the project. So we are clearly seeing that the transition from a conventional fossil fuel refinery is happening to bio-based refinery. There are 3 projects that Praj is in advanced stage of constructing for oil marketing companies, which will produce ethanol on a large scale. And finally, this slide talks about the big impact that sustainable manufacturing or sustainable practices can create, whether it is with society in terms of job creation, whether it is creating rural entrepreneurship, because the ethanol is complete combustion oxygenating fuel. The combustion is complete, and therefore the suspended particles are low. So all the issues about the health hazards because of the vehicular pollution are minimized. We all are familiar with the brown clouding or the stubble burning problem that happens in northern part of India, often where the post harvesting farmers burn the agricultural residue or remains agri waste, and then all that smog gets deposited over Delhi, causing a big pollution problem. So all this has health hazards. On the economy side, we spoke about saving the foreign exchange. We also talk about boosting the rural economy, which is actually going what Prime Minister calls as Antyodaya, which is actually helping at the bottom of the pyramid people who are working in the farming community, and then you are able to leverage your captive resources, so you are able to minimize the demand supply energy gap. And obviously, you are working in a global environment, so as per the Paris Climate Change Summit, there are nationally determined contributions that India need to fulfill, and to fulfill those contributions we need to minimize the greenhouse gas emissions and our carbon footprints, and using biofuels helps us do exactly that. And that is a big driver. In fact, very recently, the sixth report of Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change was published, and there were severe calls for not enough action in the climate action space. So I think indeed bioeconomy is an idea whose time has come. If there is a do or die situation, survival situation, because the climate issue is threatening, because it is affecting the whole ecology, crop patterns, livelihoods. We read in newspaper about the losses that happen in the farming community, and soon it's going to gulf all of us with a very, very difficult situation. So I guess to adopt to sustainable manufacturing, we need to internalize the bioenergy, which in the form of biofuels, biochemicals, and bioproducts, biofertilizers. All that will help us keep our energy utility footprints below, and which will help us become self-sustaining. That's by and large I had to share with you. I hope you had some value addition through this presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much for patiently listening.
Thank you. We have from Bridgestone, India, Mr. Vishwajit Singh, who is the plant head at Pune. Vishwajit joined Bridgestone in 1996 and has been with the company for over 25 years. He holds a bachelor's degree in electronics and instrumentation. He is also the alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. He is effectively leading the plant operation at Pune, is actively engaged in its sustainability, productivity, and cost optimization initiatives of the company. He has played a key role in managing the expansion projects which are currently undergoing in Pune. He was one of the first employees of Bridgestone in India. So we would, of course, definitely would love to hear from him, because he has worked across different functions also during his journey at the other plant near Indore and in Pune. So we will definitely pick his brain on that. Welcome, Vishwajit. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Manish.
Then we have Mr. Raj Jadhav, who is the general manager. The general manager works at Testy by Eatables. Testy by Eatables, as you know, is based out of their plant is in Pune, and they are part of the Mars group now, which is one of the largest F&B companies. And he has been with the organizations for over 30 years. Both Raj as well as Vishwajit, I think for them, they are still in their first jobs after their education. So it is very interesting that we have experience of over 5.5 decades with us. So he joined over 30 years ago, and he has worked as well across various functions such as R&D, quality assurance, supply chain projects, and manufacturing during his tenure. He takes care of factory automations and works as the general manager works. Raj, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we have from Biofuel Circle, the head of sales and platform operations, Mr. Tushar Lavdekar. He has over 2.5 decades of experience in banking and financial sector with multinational and Indian banks. Also startup stints in education and consumer focused companies. He belongs to and was educated in Indore. And Tushar, you would like to know that even Vishwajit was born and raised in Indore. So Tushar is a passionate golfer on weekends and is deeply interested in technology, sustainability, and climate change. Tushar, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So my first question to Raj, we will have 2-3 rounds of questions. My first question to Raj is if you can give us a brief overview of your manufacturing footprint, the overall energy mix of your at your organization, and your experiences of using bioenergy. What we will do is we'll have 4-5 minutes of time for each question, and then we'll move to the other panelist. Over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Manishji. Thank you for nice introduction. I'll take a few minutes to just introduce my company. Tasty Bite Eatables is a 35 years old organization. Started in 1986, primarily manufacturing ready-to-eat meals and some of the frozen products. Ready-to-eat meal range of products are basically in the consumer packs, and they are mainly currently exported to US and Europe, whereas frozen products and some of the sauces and gravies, they are in the institutional packs and they are for B2B business in India. So like other organizations, Tasty Bite is also adopted some of the sustainable manufacturing practices which are on various fronts, mainly on power, which we use currently. Good amount of power we are using from the renewable sources. Out of total power consumption, about 25% power is being sourced from solar, wind, and biogas. So these are 3 renewable sources we are using for power. Balance about 70% of power is still taken by state electricity board. On water, we also are doing some good development of water conservation. Our ETP plant, which is about 300 KL, ensures zero water wastage in the surrounding environment. What we do is that about 90 million thousand liter water per year, we treat and use it in our own farm for the irrigation purpose. And that farm is now converted into organic, certified organic farm. Third initiative we have taken is solid waste. As we are dealing with a lot of organic ingredients, agriculture ingredients. So while manufacturing, there is a lot of wastage get developed. For example, if you are using leafy vegetables, so part of that vegetables is used and part of vegetables are getting so that all solid waste, we are converting that into organopower through biogas project, and that biogas again converted into the power. So that power is also one of the sources of the power. Fourth is, as I said, that we are situated at a place called Bhangaon, 45 kilometers from Pune, where we have almost 35 acres of open land. Out of that, about 10 to 12 acres of land is being utilized for this manufacturing facility. And balanced land, about 20 acres, we have converted into certified organic farm. And that organic farm is currently used as a demonstration farm to show the good practices, farming practices surrounding farmers. So these are few of the areas where work is going on. Most important and today's topic of discussion is use of biomass. So Tasty Bite is using 100% of fuel we use in our boilers is biomass, that is sugar briquette. We call it sugar cane briquette, but it is mix of all agriculture waste, and which is accounting for almost 80% of total our energy consumption. The journey has started long back, almost 200. It has started in 1999, 2000. We have converted our existing boiler, which was Nestle make boiler for capacity, which was furnace oil operated boiler. We converted into this briquette operated boiler. So that time, the economics and everything shown was almost 19 to 20 lakh conversion cost, and we had worked upon payback period of about 1.5 years. So we happily started that project. But I'm happy to say that when we started the project, we showed that the conversion payback was hardly 5.5 months. So that much quickly we converted that entire investment into our profit. And since then, we are very happily working with the biomass and biofuel. Eventually, after that, we have added additional 2 boilers also. So then after whatever new boilers have been added, these are inbuilt So for the interest of the organizations who are members from the organization who have not used the biomass, very quick calculation, I would like to show that 1 liter of furnace oil or diesel is equivalent to almost 3 to 3.5 kg of the briquette. If you see the cost wise, today the furnace oil or diesel is costing about roughly about 90 rupees, and briquette, which is in the range of about 5 to 6 rupees. So 1 liter of diesel, which is 90 rupees, is equivalent to 3 kg of briquette, which is roughly about 20 rupees. So this is the comparison that gets the same amount of steam generated from that boiler. If you are using the furnace oil or diesel, you are supposed to use 90 rupees equivalent fuel, whereas if you are in the briquette operated boiler, same amount of steam will get generated in about 20 to 25 rupees of fuel cost. So this is very clear that economics we have, and we are very, very, very happy to promoting this to our surrounding manufacturers.
Okay, great. Thanks, Raj. Thanks for giving us your experiences. Vishwajit, you have 2 plants in India, and Pune is the latest plant which also underwent expansion. You started near Indore. So could you tell us about your manufacturing footprint as well as on your experiences of using bioenergy?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Manish, and thank you again for inviting me here. It is my honor and privilege to be here. Let me give a brief about Bridgestone. So Bridgestone, as you know, is a global leader in the tire industry. We are offering premium tires, also diversified products, and also into mobility solutions now. And sustainability is at the core of our business and strategy. In the long-term vision, we want to be a sustainable solution company, which is also indicated by our new tagline, solutions for your journey. So in terms of our manufacturing footprint, so we have 2 units in India, one at Indore, another at Chakan, Pune, and all put together, we are producing 9 million tires per year. If we see in terms of our sustainability initiatives at manufacturing, so one of the high ticket or big ticket item which we commissioned or which we adopted as a technology recently was biomass. We have partnered it as an OPEX model with Thermex, and also we estimate 19,000 tons of CO2 reduction in a year. Also, per unit cost is 16% better. And also, it has, apart from sustainability and cost benefits, a lot of social value, to the society in terms of employment to the farmers and so on. One of the key benefits which we see from it is, rather than owning it assets and trying to grapple with the supply chain challenges, we opted for OPEX model with the partnership, and that is very important here for the success, what we feel for such initiatives. I'm very pleased to share that, with our sustainability initiatives, we were able to reduce our absolute CO2 emissions by about 25% from 2017 as a benchmark. Our group has a target to reduce total CO2 emissions by 50%, by the year 2030. So apart from this, there are a lot of other initiatives by using renewable electricity in terms of rooftop solars. So, we have almost 6.7 MV of, megawatt installations, both the plants put together, which is covering around 12% of our electricity. Also, apart from this, there are a lot of digital smart energy initiatives to manage the consumptions across both the plants by better monitoring and management. Also, a lot of emphasis on conservation of resources by reducing the water consumption, by improving the efficiencies of cooling towers. Also, using some better technology in domestic consumptions, using automated taps, the coupled with aeration. So trying to reduce, the Maharashtra has a scarcity of water in certain months, and this becomes very crucial. Also, we believe in, improving the efficiencies of our equipments like general utility equipments of compressors, and also some of our tire manufacturing equipments, where we have done some advanced technology initiatives to minimize the energy. And all these things put together, we have a solid roadmap going forward, wherein we expect the 50% or surpassing the 50% reduction target in terms of absolute CO2 by 2030. So over to you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you, Vishwajit. It's very interesting to know various initiatives on sustainability. Tushar, Biofuel Circle, we of course heard from Ashwin. I would like you to expand more on the how you address the challenges faced by the industry for use of bioenergy, and what are the benefits customers get. And also, if you can add a typical onboarding process for stakeholders and partners to join Biofuel Circle platform.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you for organizing this. And I would like to start by thanking Dr. Ruttiger. I think it was a fantastic presentation. Very, very encouraging, very motivating. I would also like to thank Mr. Jadhav and Mr. Singh for their views. It's very important to hear what the industry leaders think about this segment and what have been their experiences. So it's a great learning opportunity for all of us here. So thank you so much for your time and your views here. They're really valuable, and I'm sure everybody would benefit from them. Manish, coming back to your question, what we are seeing as the primary challenge when we are interacting with participants who are on the platform is the availability of biomass and the reliability of the supply chain. Because if you take a step back and look at the existing biomass supply chain, it's basically an attempt to connect the rural with the industrial. So while the industrial is all very organized and very professional and very digital, the rural part of it is significantly unorganized as of now, and that causes certain issues in the supply chain. And that's been a challenge for majority of the participants who have adopted biomass. That's what we come to understand. But I have much more experienced people here, so the views may be a little different, but that's what we see. And those are the challenges that we are essentially attempting to solve by way of a platform which is a digital platform for us. So one of the ways of solving this is get a very rich and wide ecosystem, so that there is multiplicity of choice, there is availability of abundance in a manner that everybody finds what they are looking for. Be they the buyers who are looking for a variety of biomass, or the sellers, because there are as we meet people in the semi-urban and the rural areas, which is where the biomass actually gets produced, which is essentially agricultural waste. These people have a simple question, that if I get into this business, will somebody buy from me? So that I think is a balance which we are attempting to create by connecting the rural with the industrial, bringing in a digital solution which provides a platform which is more of an enabler, I would say, for everyone to fulfill their needs. So that's in a nutshell. If I may add, the onboarding process for any digital platform has to be completely simple and effortless. So just a few clicks, you click on to my.biofuelcircle.com and sign up. And there are just a few fields which you fill in, a few documents you upload, and you are onboarded. In any case, we have a team which helps customers with the onboarding process. So I know since we are running against time, I don't want to elaborate beyond this. I hope that suffices and answers your questions, Manish.
Yes, it does indeed. Also, I'll just continue with you, Tushar, and ask you about the very interesting feature which I recently came across on My Biofuel Circle, is the price discovery through auction route. So could you just explain us the process and how, because it's very useful for all the participants to basically get more knowledge on this particular aspect.
So thank you so much, Manish. I'm very glad that you noticed it. That's also a feedback that we get from participants, because one of the important elements to which we believe which should add to this whole process is to stop treating biomass as something which is inherently inefficient and going to be like like in Marathi, generally if you ask people, they will say it's a kachra. You are treating kachra, but when you're dealing with it, you need to deal with it with the same respect and professionalism like any other commodity. And one of the major activities, or one of the major tools in the hands of people who deal in commodity is auctions, and that's been a main motivator for us to bring auctions. So our auctions are at par with any other commodity auction that you might find worldwide, in terms of features, in terms of functionality, and the auctions are completely anonymous. So it makes the platform a very, very democratic platform for anyone to deal, and gives people the opportunity to discover the price and do deals. And there are again multiple auctions. So there are standard auctions. There's a Dutch model that we follow, but we also have quick auctions where you can wrap up the auction in a very, very short time. So these are some of the features which we believe brings in a certain dynamism to the whole process of purchasing biomass.
Indeed, it does actually. Yeah, it does, and it's good for the price discovery as well. Raj, coming to you now, you mentioned about your early adoption of use of biomass for your thermic applications, and over 2 decades now you're using. So could you share some of the key challenges you faced, and some of the challenges you might have overcome, but what are the other pain areas you feel are a part of this process of using biomass?
Yeah, again, Manish, okay. Initially, it's 2001 when we adopted this technology. That time, there were a lot of challenges, particularly in terms of space for the storage of briquette. Compared to furnace-oil, when we shifted from furnace-oil to briquette, furnace-oil was coming into the tank of 10 kL, 20 kL, and it is sitting in one of the corners, whereas the biomass is requiring huge space. Secondly, the quality of the briquette, which is in terms of moisture content and calorific value, depending upon that, the consumption ratio is also determined. Third is the availability of the briquette, particularly in the rainy season. Being as an agriculture to the 4 months of the year, availability used to be very poor. Okay? And last one, which is still a challenge, all about challenges we have taken care, but the last challenge is whatever the ash gets generated during the operation, which is in the tune of about 7 to 8% of your whatever the briquette product you are using. That is one of the challenges to dispose of the ash. Luckily, we have the agriculture bench here, and we are using that in agriculture as some of the options also. But considering the factories which are standalone in city areas now, ash disposal is another challenge which will remain. But since last 1.5 years, we are also got associated with biofuel, and all above challenges except the ash disposal, they have taken good amount of care of all these challenges. In fact, we are enjoying the auction option also, and we are getting a very competitive price and consistent quality also. So thank you, biofuel team. With their help, this journey has become so easy now, and that's why I will suggest that I will urge definitely that manufacturers who are using steam as an energy and not using the biomass or briquette as a fuel, please start using that without any hesitation. It's a very one economical and ecological way of operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Vishwajit, in your case, you of course started using recently, but what are the things you face, and how you would also like to answer Raj's concern about and how you are handling that ash disposal?
So, for us, because we have been operating it as an OPEX model, and this is not directly our responsibility to source the biomass or worry about this. We have just entered into a partnership. So I think most of these challenges must be there for our partner. And, we have not gone through a full year cycle yet. So till now, we have not faced any issues, but, it's a good learning for us by hearing that, yes, there are seasonal challenges, operational challenges, and so on. Maybe, there is one point which I would like to put for the panelists here, because biomass needs to be stopped every month for a day for routine maintenance. And that's the time where we need to switch back to our traditional boilers. So if somebody can suggest alternate method, of using biofuel in our traditional boilers, we can store it and use it for that one day. So, current hour, we have 92% of our fuel is based on the green fuel. Because of this one day, every month, we need to operate our traditional boilers. So is there any solution, for this issue? I would be very happy to learn that during this.
Yeah, Raj, would you like to answer that?
For the permission?
No, so we are stopping biomass boiler is being stopped for maintenance every month for a day. And during that period, we have to switch back to the normal traditional boilers where, we are losing the reduction on emissions and also on the cost front. So is there any solution for that? We can have alternate fuel or something which we can store and...
Yeah. Same issue we were also facing, but luckily now as I told you that we initially had one boiler, now we have another 3 boilers now. So we always have one standby boiler. Secondly, instead of doing every month, 1 or 2 days, what we have done twice a year we are doing. Out of that, one is that whenever the boiler inspection, yearly inspection is there, that period, and after that 6 months. Whenever these 2 periods, maintenance periods are there, we generally keep alternate boilers for use. So that way we are overcoming the continuation of the breakdown of the boiler. So we have the contingency boilers, and that way we are managing the continuity in the
Okay,
Thank
Tushar, would you like to add something to this point? What is being discussed on both the switching between the fuels and also the ash disposal systems? What Raj was mentioning.
So for ash disposal, Mr. Raj and Vishwajit, there are a few solutions that we are seeing. In fact, we do have some participants who make bricks out of this ash, and in fact, these bricks have more structural strength, compared to the clay bricks, and the cost of production is also lower. So maybe offline, I can give you more details, but one of the options is to cultivate somebody who can, pick up this ash and convert that into bricks, which can either be used by your own company for paving or repairs, maintenance, etc., or it could be sold by this. Yeah? So that's a solution that it's clearly available, and we are seeing. In fact, I have personally visited the facility of one of such factories who makes those machines to make bricks. So it's not even a very large setup. So that exists today, and that's one of the ways of disposing that ash.
Okay.
Yeah. So as regarding Mr. Singh's question about the availability of an alternate fuel, unfortunately, some of the biomasses do have scaling inside the pipes, and it necessitates cleaning. However, by changing the mix of the fuels, what we are observing is that some of the industries are reducing the frequency for these shutdowns. So that you use fuels in a manner where the scaling is less, then the shutdowns are reduced. But is there an option where there is zero scaling? I haven't yet come across this. From our limited exposure, I can say we haven't yet come across something where there is absolutely zero scale.
So is there any case where you have seen successful circular economy for beyond the bricks? I mean, I'm talking about as a fertilizer.
So we haven't yet come across cases of using this ash as fertilizer. However, when you look at the bioethanol space or the compressed biogas space, the waste which is generated from there it actually qualifies to be used as fertilizer. So from the briquettes, because the bioenergy business is actually, if you see, there are three compartments here: the solid one, which is the briquette based and the pellet based business, the liquid one, which would be say bioethanol or biodiesel, and then the gaseous state, which is biogas, the compressed biogas. So for the bioethanol and compressed biogas segments, we are seeing that the waste is very easily used, and it's a classic example of circularization of economy, because that goes back into the farms as fertilizer. Here for the briquette based business, we haven't yet seen that element of circularization coming in as yet.
Raj and Vishwajit, I come back to you with a question on what are your key expectations and wish lists from the clean technology equipment providers through your, of course, experiences. If you could share a few ideas, and then first you go, Raj, and then I'll move to Vishwajit.
Sustainable manufacturing is the need of the day, and every organization in a way are implementing their own sustainable practices. Particularly in case of biomass fuel, it is very much proven that this is a way of using biomass is economical as well as ecological way of operation. Financial gain, we have seen that in terms of 90 rupees per liter fuel versus 20 rupees fuel in biomass. So that has shown that it is the economical way also. And now having this professional team like biofuel on board, I think most of the challenges are taken care of. So again, I will urge that all the manufacturers who are using steam as an energy, please adopt this biomass, biofuel technology without any hesitation. It is a very one way of ecology or economy.
Okay,
great. Thank you for the kind words.
Thanks, Raj, for those for that feedback. Vishwajit, over to you.
Yeah. So I think for biofuel, so the biggest challenge is the stability in terms of like supply chain. So that's the biggest challenge. And also, if you are owning it by yourself, then you have to grapple with all the price changes, crude oil changes, and the other feedstock price changes. Recently, I heard that the coal prices have risen up. So, they are mixing some biofuel, 5 to 10%, and that supply diverted there. So leading to some shortages. So that becomes very important because the process industry has to run without interruption. So if we really want to eliminate the traditional boilers and 100% rely on this, so that continuity is very important, which may otherwise lead to a big disruptions. So that's very important for us, at least in the tire industry. If I talk of other clean technologies, we also use nitrogen, as so there has been some offerings for us to generate at our premises. But in our process, we need a high purity of oxygen content in ppms, like less than 10 ppm, which is a challenge for technology right now. Otherwise, our bladder life gets deteriorated and we get some quality issues in the process. So that's what, from my perspective, I see, as purity, stable supply, economic value for all the stakeholders are key for, in this area.
Absolutely, yeah. And what Biofuel Circle is doing is bringing all of them together to create a dialogue. And Tushar, I would ask the next question to you in terms of the community and beyond the platform, the community and the knowledge sharing. And so could you speak about My Biofuel Circle community and how it is shaping up for the exchange of ideas and understanding the key trends in the industry from all stakeholders?
So Manish, what we also realized is that for the industry to grow and for people to get confidence on this industry, it is important to bring forth a platform where information is available, where opportunity is visible, and where there is, a possibility of not only interaction for commercial purposes, but also interaction for the sake of knowledge sharing. Because not everybody is completely up the curve, not everybody is exactly aware of what's happening, and hence people are operating in their smaller circles of influence. But our attempt is to essentially widen this, so give people a wider exposure, bring people together. So for example, somebody in Pune, I'm sure he doesn't know what's happening in the Ahmedabad market right now, or in the Gujarat market right now, or what's happening in the Tamil Nadu market right now. So what we are essentially doing is, by creating this community, My Biofuel Circle, we are bringing the community together, all the participants together. So where the buyers can look at what's happening in certain markets, the sellers can look at what's happening with certain, say, commodities. There are industry experts who are sharing insights on the industry. There are certain research personnel who are sharing insights into this. So that creates a richer interaction and information, for people to start taking better decisions and more informed decisions, rather than taking decisions on the basis of certain compulsions. So that's our idea, behind creating My Biofuel Circle, that we end up creating a community which talks to each other and which shares all of these benefits.
What are the key trends in terms of these sectors or sub-segments of the industry which you see are finding more benefits, or they're early adopters owing to their nature of their size, or the use of the need of the bioenergy and the thermal energy rather? Tushar?
Yeah. So typically, industries which are generating energy or steam for their processes out of any kind of fuel, potentially can move to biofuel based energy generation. However, what we are seeing is those industries which have consumption in bulk, who need larger quantity, are the ones which are more keen to look at this migration, because one, it's a significant economic benefit. Second also is the reduction in emission that they can bring about, because biofuels are greener compared to fossil fuel, and more industries these days are becoming very conscious and very conscientious about the kind of fuel that you use. So just to quote Mr. Vishwajit Singh, he is concerned even about that one day of using fossil fuel, and that's the level of conscientiousness that we are seeing today, that they don't even want to use coal or any other fossil fuel even for that one day. So there are more and more companies who are now who are following this. But typically, if you see tire industry, food processing, pharmaceutical, textile, paint, these are companies who need fuel in large quantity, and they are obviously adopters. But we are looking at this from a buyer's perspective. If you look at the seller's perspective, and this is very interesting because Ashwin covered in his presentation that we are now expanding our reach in the rural market, and we are also now trying to connect with the originator of this fuels, which is the farmer or farm producing organizations. And wherever we've been speaking to people, we see a lot of excitement on behalf of the farmers and the FPOs to join this segment, because everybody wants to also get rid of the agricultural waste. Because if you look at the statistics, in our country, we produce around 650 million tons of agricultural waste, of which about 230 is surplus after all applications. So fodder, roof thatching, mulching, soil enrichment, whatever you say. After that, about 230 million tons still remains surplus. And that's a big challenge, on the hands of the farmers. And we are seeing excitement everywhere. So there are smaller units who are saying we can do aggregation of biomass, and we would like to produce briquettes, or we would like to supply biomass to bioenergy companies. And I would say that that's a trend which we are seeing, which is very encouraging. So On the buyer side, of course, there are compelling reasons, but on the seller side also, there are now a lot of reasons which we are seeing, and we hope that over the next coming months or maybe coming couple of years, we will see a much larger participation from their side also in this space.
Finally, Raj and Vishwajit, the final word, maybe in 30 seconds, for final word from you. Raj, you can go first.
Yeah. So Manish, nice to arrange this program and awareness among the industry. Keep doing this good work and give this spread to everywhere. It is a very good work towards environment, towards sustainability, and we are behind you, definitely.
Thanks, Raj. Actually, yeah, Ashwin loves to talk about this, doing well by doing good. So we all want to be a part of this. Vishwajit, the final word from you.
Sure. So, as I mentioned before, so sustainability being at the core of our strategy. So this is not only limited to manufacturing, but this is something which we are addressing at the product life cycle, covering entire value chain. There has been research going on for searching of sustainable raw materials, as also discussed during this session. There has been great amount of focus on designing a product like one of our product called Ecopia, which is we call a eco-friendly product, gives a 7% better mileage, and that's because of using the low resistance technology. Also, we have been working to give same performance by reducing the weight of the tire. So end of the day, we use less of the materials. So all these design aspects goes on. Manufacturing I have discussed before, but when the tire is in the use, so you will be surprised to learn that the 90% of the emissions happen during the usage stage in the tires. So that's become very crucial, and there we want to be pioneer in mobility solutions. In India, we are giving a comprehensive maintenance packages for commercial vehicles, tires for commercial vehicles, coupled with the technology of RFID or various other aspects of technology we put in there, which gives the better efficiency to transportation, reduce their cost, and support to sustainability. So that's across the value chain. We have a commitment there, and as a company, we want to deliver almost carbon neutrality beyond 2050. That's the vision.
Absolutely. Yeah. One request to the audience: if they drive vehicles, switch to Bridgestone tires for a smooth ride.
Thank you, Manish.
Tushar,
thank you again for.
Tushar, final word from you, and before I propose vote of thanks.
So Manish, I think this has been very insightful discussion, especially all the inputs that we received from the industry's veterans and industry specialists, and I'm sure we all would have benefited significantly from this. It's very great to see that the level of awareness about this space is increasing, and everybody wants to do their bit. And I think that's the spirit that's going to finally make us more sustainable and make us more responsible as citizens. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their time, effort, and their inputs. And thank you all participants also for being here and listening into what was being shared.
Thank you so much, and thanks Ashwin and Dr. Udikar, who had to leave early. Thanks to him for his presentation. Tushar, thanks a lot, and most importantly to Vishwajit and Raj for being here and sharing their practical insights and information about the sustainability initiatives as well as the use of bioenergy in their respective industry. I also thank the team from Biofuel Circle, Suhas and Dinkar and Nish and others for joining hands for this initiative, and we look forward to more such cluster-based events. And I thank all the audience.